Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
Good evening everyone, thanks for joining us. First tonight, more than 40 seasonal workers have been forced to leave their rented property deemed unsafe by the Latrobe Council. Conditions have been described as slum-like, the council going so far to say it's a potential threat to life. The property's owner believes he's being unfairly targeted.
Dilapidated and run down, this Shearwater property now the subject of community tension.
At the time of inspection, 43 people were confirmed as being accommodated on the property.
Concerns raised by the community, the council conducting initial investigations.
Clearly identified the potential risk to human life and associated breaches of a number of codes and in particular fire safety requirements.
Acclaimed property owner Simon Baldock strongly denies, saying the living situation is no different to a large share house, adding the tenants at the house are a kinship group, very familiar with each other and in effect a large household.
I have seen the reports, I've read the reports, I have seen the video footage and the photographs, and the owner is incorrect. I was sick to the stomach. It beggars belief.
This is not an isolated case of substandard accommodation. Those arrangements are rampant throughout the industry.
This, the second issue at the property, the council say it's not personal. It's about needing better legislation, including assessment about appropriate wastewater systems.
Unfortunately, again, it is our experience that none of those checks and balances are currently in place, and nor does the current process stand any level of scrutiny.
Workers are able to find their own accommodation, department approval not required. The federal government say in those instances, workers are responsible for all costs, with the employer not responsible for the accommodation's quality.
I'm grateful also to the federal government as well, who have acted swiftly to ensure that there is suitable accommodation available for our guest workers.
We believe that the government needs to put into place much more rigorous standards and enforce those standards so that people aren't subjected to this sort of exploitation.
7 Tasmania News asked the property's owner's permission to see the conditions inside. However, that request was refused. The Latrobe Council also has video footage as part of its investigation, but is unwilling to release it publicly. Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
On the eve of Gil McLachlan's visit to Hobart, Tasmanian federal politicians have released a joint letter calling for an AFL team without a new stadium demand. It was signed by Liberals, Greens and Independents, who say they're putting politics aside to make their plea. State Labor says it won't be seeking a meeting with the outgoing AFL boss, who will front a tourism luncheon tomorrow.
Labor has had ongoing discussions with the AFL. I certainly won't be seeing him while he's in Tasmania, but we've made our position very clear on this. We think it's time for Tasmania to have our own AFL team.
Meanwhile, a parliamentary inquiry into the Macquarie Point Stadium has received more than 900 public submissions ahead of hearings in Launceston and Hobart beginning next month. The state's hydrogen action plan is in the spotlight, with Labor claiming energy companies haven't been able to access power to produce hydrogen since the plan's launch 3 years ago. Shadow Energy Minister Dean Winter is calling for the state government to get more serious about the state's hydrogen ambitions.
Minister Guy Barnett and the Tasmanian government need to provide an update on what's going on with this, because they told Tasmanians and they told industry that we would have hydrogen being made here in Tasmania.
Well, I don't think that Labor's helping anyone by talking down the opportunities that exist in Tasmania right now. We've certainly had engagement through a range of ministers over a number of years.
The action plan cites hydrogen production in full swing by 2022 to 2024. And locally, we're being urged to brace for heightened fire danger, with temperatures set to soar in coming days. The fire service is concerned lack of rain will mean higher fuel loads in the community, with locals asked to think carefully about their own backyards.
Now's the time to prepare. We've got a little bit of mild weather just in the lead up, and we're hoping that people will look around their homes, make sure they're prepared. If they haven't already done so, do their 5-minute home bushfire plan.
A temporary hold on fire permits will be implemented from tomorrow until Sunday in the south of the state, while in the northwest the changes will remain until Monday. Promising new figures have revealed Tasmania is leading the nation in organ donation outcomes. David Wilson is among those locals who have received a second chance at life after a successful kidney transplant late last year.
When the phone rang in the early hours of the morning, David Wilson could barely believe what he was hearing at the other end.
It turned out to be the kidney specialist and asking if I was okay, feeling quite well. I think this is all very strange. And then to say, can you get yourself to the airport within 4 hours? We think we've got a transplant waiting for you.
A life-altering moment that has opened up endless possibilities for the 71-year-old and his wife, Lorraine.
Our bucket list was shot, but we've now been able to put a plug in the hole in the bucket, and we can now look forward to doing things that we thought were gone.
Tasmania hit the highest rate of organ donors per million of population last year, with the Donate Life report showing a 171% increase in people who received a transplant.
Overall in Australia last year, the organ donation rate was about 17.5 donors per million, so we're almost twice the national average.
The state has the strongest registration rate behind South Australia, but thousands still remain on dialysis, waiting for that call.
They are very much stuck with needing to be dialysed 3 or 4 times a week, which means they have to stay in one spot. They have to attend hospital for a number of hours.
David was one of 57 Tasmanians whose lives were saved when they received a transplant last year. All thanks to the generosity of 18 donors and their families who agreed to go ahead with the process.
The expectation now is if you get an organ, you will live a large number of years after that you get that organ and survive in very good health.
Nearly 4 months on, David is already a changed man.
I'm now seeing results from pathology and blood readings, that sort of thing, I haven't seen for 20 years.
Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
The popular Targa Tasmania has been postponed until later this year. Event organisers are waiting for the release of Motorsport Australia's Targa Review Panel report, launched to investigate 4 rally deaths in 2 years. CEO Mark Perry says a delay will give them time to implement any recommendations put forward. The event will now be held in October. Construction on the new Brighton High School is officially underway, but it's come at a cost, the budget coming in $44 million above its original target.
They did not do the preliminary work required before they made the promise in 2018. We've seen the cost blow out from $30 million to $74 million and counting.
This is a very challenging market and time for delivering on capital works projects, but this is a priority for us.
This school will feature state-of-the-art facilities to accommodate 600 students, with construction set to end in December next year. Perfect skies and sunny weather encouraged thousands of punters to flock to Mowbray for this year's Launceston Cup. And when it comes to fashions on the field, there's no horsing around.
The event many spend the year waiting for.
Magnificent, isn't it? And the day they've laid it on for us.
Thousands packing out the luscious green grass of Mowbray Racecourse, loving everything the Cup has to offer.
The fascinators, the fashion, it's all wonderful.
It's a great excuse to get dressed up.
Great to see everyone out and about looking their best.
While some focused on the field hoping to win big.
We're hoping that someone can give us some tips because we actually have no idea, but yeah, we'll have a go. Yeah.
Others focused on the fashion.
We're going to see all colours, we're going to see all lengths, very well organised and accessorised from head to toe.
Taking their turn on the stage, some first-time entrants hoping to take home the prize with an outfit they'd designed themselves.
I didn't want to wear a boring suit like everyone else, might as well do something a little bit different.
But it was another first-time entrant finishing in top spot.
Girlfriend pushed me into it. I'm glad I did it though, it's good.
In the women's, it was a Westbury local whose outfit won her a trip to Bali.
Oh, I can't believe this is actually happening. I've been entering for like 8 years here at the Launceston Cup, so it's finally happened today that I've won.
Celebrating everything there is to love about the Launceston Cup.
A fabulous weather day, a fabulous crowd. We've probably never had a better meeting with the horses.
Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
A local dance school has partnered with Kids Alive to teach young Tasmanians about water safety. It's part of a national program hoping to keep Australia's drowning death statistics from soaring.
sending a strong message in a fun and interactive way.
Kick, paddle, twist and turn! Roly-poly, you guys are great!
Kids Alive partnering with 250 Ready Set Dance studios across Australia, teaching children under 5 the importance of water safety.
We've created a show that you can bring it to your community, anywhere. Preschool, library, right into the heart of the community.
Not only does it just educate them, they have fun whilst doing it through the use of dance and music and storytelling.
North Hobart's Encore Dance and Theatre School jumping on board.
Kids just get into everything, so it's so important to make sure that they know how to stay safe and how you as a parent can protect your children.
The dance teachers receiving online training that aligns with the early years learning framework and national quality standards.
The dance teaches them certain cues, when to go in, what to do, how to ask for help, all of those really important things.
Fence the pool. Good job. Shut the gate. Yes. Teach your kids to swim. It's great!
17 children aged 0 to 4 have drowned in Australian waterways in the past year. Encore Dance is hoping the partnership will pave the way towards real and positive change. They'll be contacting local early learning services in the next few weeks. Brianna Boylan, 7 Tasmania News.
The Freedom Band is using the Mona Foma Festival to send a powerful message. Their performance paying tribute to John Pat, the 16-year-old Aboriginal Australian boy who died in custody 40 years ago.
It's a story that takes us on a journey from what we were going through and to where we are today.
The public can experience the show for free on the Mona Lawns tomorrow. Tasmania has endured a terrible first innings against Western Australia on day 2 of the Sheffield Shield. It was a tough day in the office with strong batting performances from Beau Webster and Jordan Silk, not enough to chase down the visitors.
What about the drive from Webster? Golly!
Western Australia lead Tasmania by 223 runs. Jack Jumpers talent Sam McDaniels has put pen to paper to join the Hobart Chargers in their fight for another NBL 1 South Championship, re-signing with the club. McDaniels is expected to again make a strong contribution in the lineup, with coach Anthony Stewart eager to see his return.
Sam is one of the most professional athletes that I've ever seen, so he'll give himself every opportunity to get back and get himself into some rip-roaring form and once again tear up the NBL next year.
The competition tips off on April 1 with more major announcements on the Chargers roster expected in coming days. A-League expansion into Tasmania is back on the agenda, with the competition's chief telling 7 Tasmania News informal discussions have begun. Local stakeholders say joining the competition remains a top priority, even as NPL teams weigh up joining a proposed national second division.
Putting Tasmania back on the A-League's radar. Recent crowds, including the 5,000 at North Hobart Oval last month, impressing league officials.
I think what that showed is that if there was a team that was genuinely Tasmanian, there'd be a big support for it.
5 years after a state bid was knocked back, the league is taking another look. The CEO confirming initial conversations have begun.
We're certainly on the journey, but we've got a ways to go, but certainly interested to explore further.
Local soccer bosses believe it should be a top priority.
Our ambition is still very much to have A-League women's and men's in Tasmania.
We have to keep our eye on the ball, and our first priority should be a team in the A-League.
The league is looking for investment from the government, the business and soccer community. A football-friendly stadium also a must.
Watching football in a rectangular stadium is a far better experience than watching one on a cricket or AFL grounds.
Tasmania's football community is also dealing with the rise of a new league. Expressions of interest have opened for the National Second Division. Kingborough's president says the Lions won't be applying.
We'd be in a position to actually meet the criteria of a second tier, but as I say, it's not our priority or not our focus.
Also warning any club's ambition can't come at the expense of a united bid.
I struggle to think that from a football, as in soccer perspective, that we have the fraternity or infrastructure to have a number of teams playing.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Aurora Symphony is taken out back-to-back Launceston Cups. The 6-year-old took out the 2,400 metre race by half a length from barrier 1.
Racing, Aurora Symphony stepped away well, as did Military Mission, and Whitehawkers go on.
It was a tight race, with Charlie Brown leading the pack for most of the race before Aurora Symphony gave a strong chase, taking home the $300,000.
Spirit Legions coming late, Aurora Symphony in front, and back-to-back Aurora Symphony lead now.
In the day's other high-profile race, the Inevitable came from second last to first.
Good evening. Hobart and Burnie both reached 20 today, 23 in Launceston, 21 in Devonport. 23 for Bushy Park, Strawn, Grove, Friendly Beaches and King Island all reached 22. 21 the top for Flinders Island and Smithton, Lioini 15. Clear skies over the state today, apart from some low-level cloud around the east. Further out, cloud is covering most of the country with some isolated thunderstorm for parts of New South Wales, the far north and WA, and some troughs are creating some cloud bands over the Southern Ocean. Tomorrow, a high remains over the Tasman Sea, bringing some warmer winds to the state, while a cold front crossing the Southern Ocean will extend into the Bight. Northeasterly winds of 10 to 15 knots, increasing to 30 knots about the northwest and lower east. And there's a strong wind warning from the far northwest coast to the lower east coast. Things are starting to heat back up from tomorrow, 29 and partly cloudy in Hobart and Cygnet, New Norfolk 30. Cloudy and 26 for Launceston and Campbelltown, 23 in Devonport. Partly cloudy in Burnie, Strawn to reach 29 degrees, windy and partly cloudy in Smithton. Cloud across the east, 23 in St Helens, Swansea 25, a top of 24 for Fingal. Tomorrow's UV will sit at high, very high 9. Fine and hot across the state on Friday, Launceston and Hobart both 32, Strawn 30. Those hot conditions will continue into Saturday until some showers develop for the west in the afternoon before extending statewide in the evening. And more showers for the south on Sunday, partly cloudy across the north. Across the country tomorrow, a hot one for Adelaide reaching 41. Melbourne mostly sunny, 25 the top for Sydney, showers for Brisbane and for Cairns. And right now in Hobart, it's 18, Launceston partly cloudy and 20, Devonport sitting at 19. And Kim, it's looking like a hot end to the week.
Summer continues. Thanks, Victoria. And that is your midweek news. Thanks for joining us this evening. For now, it's good night.